But first, Donald Trump's visit to Tokyo has reset strained US-Japanese relations, with the president praising the new Prime Minister, Sano Takaichi, and reaffirming a united front against China's growing influence. Joining me now, Greg Sheridan from The Australian, of course, foreign editor. I said before the break, people are saying that she's Asia's Margaret Thatcher, Greg, and we know that she was a protege of the late PM Shinzo Abe. So what can you tell us? You've had a good look at her, about the new PM.
Well, she's great to be with you, Peter. She's a great and distinctive change in Japanese politics. She's not only the first woman, she's a tough, hardline conservative. She certainly was a protege of Shinzo Abe. She is a hawk on defence matters. She is immediately raising Japan's defence spending to 2% of its GDP. Now, Japan's GDP is vastly, vastly greater than Australia's. So here is another nation, unlike Australia, the only laggard in the whole world, it seems, massively increasing defence expenditure. And of course, it has very lethal and powerful defence forces. I wish we'd just stuck with the Japanese submarines, as Tony Abbott wanted. She's a China hawk, and she wants to revive the Japanese dynamism in its economy and its society. So she's only just begun, but she's begun absolutely the right way. And she's done the right thing. She's nominated Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Sort of vacuous and silly, but it means something to Trump. And so she's going to go all out to make Japan strong, to strengthen the alliance with the US and with Australia and others, and to be a very formidable competitor to China.
Yeah, I don't think it's vacuous and silly. We don't think it's vacuous and silly when the left climb all over these prizes. So I think if he can genuinely bring peace to the Middle East,
I do think it's vacuous and silly when the left does it. I do think it's utterly vacuous and silly.
Yeah, okay, well, fair's fair then. Good on you, Greg. You're even-handed with your derision. We like to see that. Just on that point, when I mentioned then the Gaza ceasefire, there's been some retaliatory hits by the IDF in the area. JD Vance was asked about this today and says, does this mean that the ceasefire is over? He says, no, these are skirmishes. The ceasefire is holding. Give us your sense of things.
Well, Peter, I've always been very pessimistic about this. I think Trump deserves great credit for bringing about the ceasefire, and the peace plan that he has is an excellent peace plan. If it were implemented, it would be the best news the residents of Gaza have had in decades. But Hamas plainly still controls the territory that Israel has withdrawn from. It doesn't care how many Gazans have been killed, and it shows no sign of disarming. So, you know, despite JD Vance, whom I respect and everything, and despite, you know, wanting Trump's plan to work, no plan is being implemented. Hamas hasn't disarmed as it was supposed to. There's no sign of an international stabilisation force taking place. There's no sign of an interim Palestinian administration. These things may come about, but Hamas has been murdering Palestinians who oppose it from the day of the ceasefire. And Hamas and the Israeli Defense Force are back killing each other. So I think it's still much better than before the ceasefire, much better. Israel has withdrawn to well-defensible lines, and a lot of aid is getting through, so people aren't going as hungry and so forth. That's all an improvement, but it's very hard to see how this, and certainly without wishing to sound like I'm anti-Trump in any way, it's hard to see how this represents eternal peace forever and a new Middle East.
All right, I'm going to ask you about the imminent closure of Tomago smelter, because, you know, all this debate about heavy industry in Australia, we're looking at the economic hit if the business was to leave, and the knock-on effect then to other allied heavy industry, other people that rely on the aluminium that's smelted there. And we also then talk about the emissions. But I never lose sight of the fact that if we are in these challenging security times, if we can't make big steel products in Australia, if we can't do heavy smelting, if we don't have this heavy industry manufacturing capability, well, I think we are absolutely harming our national security as much as anything else. And I think that's an underrated aspect of this whole debate, Greg.
Well, Peter, you're absolutely right. I mean, this country is in a disastrous strategic situation. The ABC Media Watch was having a go at me the other night for being a bit too tough on the Albanese government. But look at it. We have deindustrialised. We've got nowhere on building a strategic fleet of civilian vessels which we can commandeer in war. We've got nowhere on getting fuel security. We've still got a couple of weeks reserves. What manufacturing industry would ever locate in Australia, given, as the BHP boss said the other day, our energy costs are 100% bigger, higher than the US and 200% higher than Canada and a number of other countries. All of our smelters and refineries exist only on government subsidy. So our basic wealth derives from iron ore, coal and gas, none of which we'd be allowed to export under a net zero scenario. We have skyrocketing crazy energy prices, even though we're going to renewables, which are alleged to be the cheapest new energy source. Nothing in this country makes any sense. We're not producing our own defence equipment. Our manufacturing industry is a tiny shadow of what it once was, and what remains all exists on government subsidies. The Albanese government's answer to everything is government subsidies. But, you know, as Margaret Thatcher said, the problem is with socialism, you eventually run out of other people's money. We're living way beyond our means. We can't afford this. So it's a terrible mess. I mean, I guess the government will keep trying to subsidise these firms, but Rio's absolutely right to say, unless it gets long-term affordable energy, then it's going to need constant government grants, not an emergency waiver. And there's no sign at all that we're going to get competitive energy prices.
Thank you for that common sense, Greg. I think we absolutely got to keep putting national security alongside economic security in this debate. Thank you.